Welcome back to Living with a Classic. I'm here with the 1976 XJ12, which didn't have an engine before. Check the previous video out for all the details, but basically when it was 10 years old, it blew its engine. It was sitting without one for almost 40 years, and we just put one in. So now, in this episode, I want to try and get it running. We are going to replace a lot of things, but a couple things I'm going to keep the old stuff just to get it started, and then pull them off. Like the injectors, they're sitting on the intakes with hoses and everything. It looks fine just to fire it up, and then we'll of course replace everything, but want to make sure that the ECU works, the wiring and everything works before we get too far. Only thing I've done since last time is I pulled the external water rails and put the other ones on, and yeah, but let me show you what I've done inside the engine, or what I've noticed when I pull the cam covers, because I think this is a really good engine I have here. So I want to use the other cam covers just in really nice shape, because I would also, whenever you have a V12 this far down, you always replace the cam cover gaskets and the half moon seals because they'll leak. Have a look here. I pulled these off earlier. Look at how fantastically clean it is in here. Really good clean engine. So what I want to do is I'll put the other covers on there, and a lot of this stuff will be done off camera because we've done a lot of it on here, but I'm just going to check the valve clearance really quickly, just a little bit on a couple of them, turn it over a little bit, see that they're okay. Most likely they are, and then start putting things back together.
Well, I made quite some progress and haven't filmed it because you've seen it on this channel lots of times before. It's not the first time we worked on my favorite engines. However, doing a little update now and showing what has been done. We have the other cam covers on, and I think they're really nice. Yes, there's a couple small scratches here and there, which really isn't bad. Probably someone who couldn't get a bolt off before, not sure. But that will get covered by the intakes. You're never going to see it, and I really just like how original they look, that they were taken off from a 10-year-old car, and yeah, you never really see them this nice, so it's a shame to redo them. Then I have the water rails on with thermostat houses, all new thermostats and gaskets, and the seals in here because they always go bad, those seals. That's all new and in place. The distributor has been gone through and is in place. Engine is timed. Then we have the pedestal in place with everything on this side in place as well. I was going to start with the coolant hoses, but I noticed that I forgot to order one thing, which is a new heater valve, and that is stuck. So no point in replacing the hoses if I'm just going to replace the valve. So we'll use the old hoses in the back just to fire it up. And I'll fire it up in plain water the first time, and then when I order some things I need, like I need an exhaust, a couple hoses and things I missed, and brake things, then I'll order one of those as well. Put the part of the loom in place, and yeah, lots of good things going on. I'm right now preparing to put the water pump on, have all the bolts in the parts cleaner, and we have a new gasket there. But I think the next thing we're going to do is put the intakes on. They're complete and sitting in the boot with everything. So we're going to move the injector harness a little bit out of the way, put the intakes on, and after that we can actually do plug wires and yeah, lots of small little jobs. Here's a little bit of a tip that we haven't showed on the channel before. Mostly work with HE engines. This is a pre-HE, of course, and of course the heads is the biggest difference of the engine. So where the spark plugs are located or how they're angled is quite different. So this is a pre-HE, and you see they're all angled out from the middle. On an HE they're all angled the same way, which means that the intake gaskets are actually a little bit different. I'm not sure if you can maybe now, but when I started working on these engines, you could not get gaskets for intake gaskets for the pre-HE. You had to get HE gaskets and cut them down. However, I just kept doing that because HE gaskets are readily available. They're nice and thick and always seal up well. So they come all like this together, and on the HE you can lay them down like here. But you see here,
You just cut them up like that. Quite simple. Just make sure that you can get to the spark plugs, because you see, if I were to lay that gasket on top, you see it will cover up. It'll make it pretty much impossible to get to some of the spark plugs. So just a little bit of a tip. I have this one to cut up on the other side as well, and then we can get the intake on. And yeah, it's getting stuck here. Why did I do this? Alright, starting to look and feel like an engine. So, since these intakes were taken off with all the injectors on it, not my preferred method, I thought we will fire it up with them like this and we'll see what they're like. And then fuel rails will come off with the injectors. It's a little bend in that one there, so we'll try and fix that, and then, you know, go through the injectors, new hoses and everything, but it should be good enough to at least fire it up and sort of see what we got. I'm going to bolt all this down, and then I think we will continue on with the water pump and wiring, hoses. There's a lot left to do, but it's starting to look like an engine now. So a lot more has been connected. We have this whole panel here. Battery is on charge, and I thought we connect it up now, just see if it cranks. So yeah, I just connect up the starter as well, and hopefully we have an oil pressure light at least, maybe something more. And let's just see if we build pressure. We have fresh oil on the stick, and I did pre-fill the filter, so hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. But let me connect up the battery, find the keys, and so first we'll see if, you know, hopefully nothing starts smoking, and then we'll see if it cranks over and if it builds oil pressure. All right, let's see if we have the clock ticking. That's good. Ooh, we have an oil light. That's the only thing hooked up, actually. Ooh, it cranks. It's going to sound weird because there's no exhaust on it, and yes, there's no fuel, no ignition is connected, but let's look at that oil light, and we'll look at the pressure gauge over there. We'll let that starter cool off a little bit. Could take a while because of the oil coolers and everything, but I would like to see some pressure before we actually fire it up. Okay, we'll let that cool about 30-40 seconds or so, and we'll try again. I've tried 1 or 2 more times. I'm not seeing anything, but even when these start up and they've been sitting for a long time, it takes a long time for them to build oil pressure. So I think we're gonna call it good. We've circulated oil around it at least, and I did hear the injectors click, so that's really good. I need to connect up a couple more things to get ignition working, and then we'll pull a plug wire and see if we have spark. If we do, I need to root around and find a spare fuel pump. I've disconnected the one on this car, of course, and hook up incoming fuel there and outgoing fuel there, and that should be enough for it to at least probably burst into light. It's going to be extremely loud. There's no exhaust on it, just the manifolds, nothing else. All I want to see is like 5 seconds of runtime and that we're building pressure. That's pretty much it. So other thing would be to pull all the plugs and spin it over, but that would take quite a long time. I did put some oil down the cylinders when I put the plugs in, and I am definitely hearing good compression. I did run a compression test on it before I got the engine, so we know that all that is good. But yeah, I think we'll get the ignition going, see how that goes, and then hopefully this thing fires into life. Done some checks. There is voltage at the coil, so I'm just going to jump the starter here, and we'll see. No, nothing. Okay, this will need some troubleshooting. Could be the amplifier, could be the signal from the distributor, it could be a lot of things. Yeah, that is connected. But I'm going to continue investigating, trying to figure out why we don't have a spark. After a lot of troubleshooting, I've tried different coils and different amplifiers. So this is the Opus system. Not the greatest, but it was a really early electronic ignition system. And they made a later version where you put the amplifier up there because they're prone to overheating down here. I don't have that many spare parts for that, and the spare parts I had made no difference. Tried, different sensors and everything. So I grabbed a system I know works from the earlier one that sits down here, and with that all together, we seem to have a spark. So I'll have a look down there. So now we have spark, at least. I need to put the distributor back together and all the HT leads back on, and then we gotta rig up a fuel system. See if we got it tonight, or that might be tomorrow's job. We're all connected up here. Distributor is back together and still have a plug there. So let's just see if we have spark out of the distributor as well. Yes, we do. So that's really, really good. Now it's just time to make a fuel system, an external one. Try and get that figured out and then fire this thing up. Now that we have spark, I have hooked up an external fuel system. It's just a high pressure fuel pump, some fresh fuel, spare battery. We've used this before. Go into the inlet and the return. I primed everything and there's slight wetness in two places. I mean, gets all this being replaced. I have new hoses on order and injectors are be gone through, but there's slight wetness right there. Tighten the clamp, seems a little bit better. And slight wetness right there, but also tighten that clamp. They're all loose. This is not how it's supposed to be. You'll see when in a future video when it's all together. However, I'm not asking for much. I'm asking for it to bark into life and build some oil pressure, hopefully. So I do have, of course, always a fire extinguisher handy, and I have big buckets of water as well. If something were to happen, and it's not really that copiously warm today, still pretty early in the day. So we're gonna give it a shot. I think I'm gonna stand in the engine bay and crank it from there, and we're gonna see what happens. I'll be wearing ear protection because it will be loud, and if anything does spark into life, we're not gonna run it for very long. So I'll prime up the fuel system, turn off the fuel pump, we'll crank it up, see what happens just in case we have a stuck injector or something. I have heard them ticking, but you never know. And see if we get any life out of it at all. I'm gonna connect up the battery. Here I do have the ignition in the car turned on. And we don't have an alternator or anything, so just connecting it here will turn off the engine if it does fire. I can control the throttle from here. I can crank it over here. So I'll prime the fuel system just once. I heard it returning. We do have fuel in there. It's not really spraying anywhere. This is really the worst up here. But we'll put on headphones or ear protection and we'll see what happens. Something. we're going to prime it a bit more, and then we're going to see if we get some injectors ticking. Not that many, but some. We'll see. We might have to go through and probe all the injectors and get them to fire, but we'll try again. If we're going to do that, I'm going to grab some wires for that, and we'll make sure that each injector clicks. Probably a bit stuck, and now there's fuel on them, so that can help get them going. Disconnect the battery, but I am smelling exhaust and everything coming through here. So definitely something is happening, but I'll disconnect this and I'll show you guys how you probe the injectors just to get them click a little bit and hopefully you know, come into life. So these injectors just run about 3-4 volts normally, but if you briefly touch them with 12 volts, if they're stuck, you can get them going. So let's see. So that one's good. It's clicking, and I actually heard some fuel spray. That one as well. That one too. So I'll continue with all of them, get all 12, and hopefully maybe they weren't opening fully or something, and this usually does get them going. I had about 3 injectors that did not really click that well, and one really not at all, but I do have some spare ones later, and we're going to rebuild them and get 12 good ones for them. But just prime the fuel system again, and now we have a lot more injectors making a noise. So air protection on, and let's see what happens. All right. It runs. Doesn't make any weird noises. Did not see if the oil pressure light went off. Make sure we have good connections on all of that. So let's give it a little bit more fuel. See what happens. Most of the smoke is probably oil in the cylinders. But we'll try again and see if maybe we can see some oil pressure. Gauge went up as well, and actually sounded pretty good. Quite loud. Happy I wore air protection, but it's not smoking anymore. Doesn't smell like unburnt fuel. So and we're not really leaking profusely anywhere. I think I don't want to run the pump, you know, if you don't. Also, an aluminum engine like this, you don't want to run without a coolant system for long, but like 30 seconds, completely fine. But this is awesome. After you've gone through this much work and something fires up, that's great. And also, it's going to run a little rich. I haven't connected up one sensor, which is the air temp sensor, so it will be a little bit on the rich side. Really doesn't matter. But this is great. Let's do it one more time and crank it over, and then I want to see how far the oil pressure gauge goes up. If we can sort of see that from inside the car. I mean, it's not going to run that long without complete fuel pressure on, but just because of the nature of the hoses, I don't want to do that. I have poured water here where I had fuel spill from earlier, but let's do it one more time. This is a lot of fun. Pressure is slowly coming up here. It's running a little bit longer, so that is working. We're running for about 10 seconds. We'll run a little bit longer. I think we just have a bad sender, a slow gauge, but definitely we have good oil pressure, so we'll turn it off. Well, that was a huge success and such a nice milestone to be able to fire an engine up and hear it run, even if it's just briefly and no exhaust. No cooling system, nothing like that. A lot left to do. I have a lot of things on order, but the customer, of course, is really happy to hear that it runs. And we also confirmed that, ignition switch works. The whole electrical system seems to work. That we have, the ECU works, everything. So we did confirm a lot with this test. A lot of work left to do on the car. I'm not sure how much of it I'm going to film in detail, but of course you guys will see it when it's ready with an exhaust, gone through brakes, injectors, and everything. You can actually run it properly and take it for a real drive. That will be a while in the future, but stay tuned for more. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. And if you want to help out the channel a little extra, I do have a Patreon and I do have channel memberships down below. Until next time, I'm Adam. This is Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.